Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. We are here today to talk to the lovely Sarah Boyd, and she is going to be sharing with us about her book, The Habit Revolution. I'm really excited to have Sarah here. We actually worked as personal trainers together a long time ago, like another lifetime ago, and just watching her journey unfold to the place where she is now with this book and so many amazing things coming for her. I'm really excited to have her on this podcast and to share in something that I'm really passionate to talk about, which is women's health, because we are not talking about it enough. So, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Please share more about you and tell us more about your what you're doing here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. It's nice to reconnect after it's been so long. My name is Sarah. I'm a personal trainer, nutrition and lifestyle coach, and I help women navigate their hormonal landscapes and align their training, their nutrition, their recovery, and their sleep with where they're at in that hormonal landscape. We all know our hormones change through our life, and it also changes as we go through our month. And it's not as complicated as, having to have a different plan for every week of the month, but knowing how to have flexible habits that can fit with all of those different hormonal landscapes that we experience. So I did write a book about it. I'd say brief introduction into how our hormones change and what each hormone does for us and how it makes us feel. And then we break it down into what we can do to support them via physical things like our nutrition and our exercise and our sleep that do really have big impacts on it.
hmm
So,
Yeah, yeah. I love that you're looking at all aspects. I just wanted to say that because, that is my passion too, and I love that that is where you're at. We need more of that. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, you have to look at it from a holistic standpoint.
Agree. A whole ass point.
A
You
whole
do.
ass way. That might be my new tagline. A whole ass, yeah, view. But you do have to because if you don't, and I've been there as an athlete where I've been going so hard in one aspect of it and you neglect the others, and then guess what? There's injuries and your performance declines. But us wanting to have a good performance isn't just our athletics, it's also how we're performing in life and how we're performing in reaching the goals that we might have for ourselves. So it really does. I've been working a lot over the last decade to 2 decades on how to take the skills that I learned as a young athlete and apply them to my life as I'd say a lifelong athlete. Like I'm not competing by any means anymore, but I definitely still want to perform well, but also how to apply it to my clients' lives when they're in that perimenopause and menopause transition.
hmm Yeah,
Mhm.
and I love in the book, so I'm just going to share with you guys. She gives you all the information you need in here. Like if you're sitting there going, "Okay, I know I have like a cycle and I know once a month my period shows up or every so many days." But you're not fully aware of, maybe you are doing training for something and then all of a sudden one week, you're really weak or you're tired and you go to the gym and you try to lift that, 25-pound dumbbell that you're so used to lifting, and all of a sudden you're like, why is this so heavy? I can't get this thing off the ground. So
Exactly.
I love that you you really break it down for people in here for women so that we can understand. And it's not about like you say, it's in so many different spaces in here, like it's not about punishing or being mad at
Mhm.
your body because this week is not doing something that you want it to do, but it's understanding and building that trust with your body. And I think that's a really really valuable lesson that we learn in the book. So tell us, this book, like you said, has been, you've been doing this for years and you've come to the place where you're able to write this book. So tell us how did you accumulate this? How did you get to the place where the book was published? And what do you want to share about this
Mhm.
whole process?
Yeah, I think, growing up as an athlete, like I mentioned, I was very much a tomboy and I always wanted to beat the boys. I've got five brothers, and as the youngest and the only girl, it was very much of it doesn't matter if you're a girl.
hmm
And then puberty hit, and didn't matter how hard I tried, the boys just kind of increased their
Yeah.
speed. I was a swimmer and a runner, so all about the speed there. And I just kept pushing harder and getting riddled with injuries. And When I finished my athletic career, I knew I wanted to stay in athletics, so I started coaching. And at the 2016 Olympic trials, I was assistant coaching for about 20 athletes that were trying to make the Olympic swim team. And no one made it, which is very, common. There's a lot of people that try to make the Olympic team and very few who actually do make it. And when they all quit swimming afterwards, it broke my heart. And I realized that I had created or assisted to create athletes that were just like myself. They were overworked and they were under recovered. And so I made the shift into personal training. And that's actually when we met.
Hmm.
And from there, it was just eye-opening because, yeah, you start working on the training side of things and you just realize how if you're not eating the right foods, and that was where it led for me. It was okay, food matters. So let's go do a nutrition course. And I've always been looking back at what I did and using myself as my number one example. And so I noticed that when I got injured and I couldn't train as hard, well, I gained weight. And as a runner, it's all about your physique. So you have to lose weight. And that time period, there's about a year and a half where I was working with a trainer and a dietitian when I was, how old, 17. It was the year before I signed my scholarship and I was nonstop injured because, and I look back now, I had no nutrients in my body. It was the classic chicken, rice, and broccoli diet. I wasn't getting a full range of nutrients that my body needed. And so looking back now, I know that my body wasn't getting. When you're in a deficit to lose weight, your
Hmm.
body doesn't have the necessary things it needs to build and recover from there.
Yeah.
So that for me was really eye-opening. And as I continued into that, I was trying to manage these personal training hours, which are, when you're new, you take a 6 a.m. client and a 7 p.m. client, and
Yeah.
you're at the gym all day long and you're tired. So you just keep drinking the caffeine,
Yeah.
coffees and energy drinks. And it became this vicious cycle where my body didn't know how to recover. And so sleep became a big component of that. And I ended up taking a holistic lifestyle coaching course to kind of tie it all in together. And that for me was the big switch that it's not about pushing harder, it's about pushing smarter. And so continuing on from there, I continued to build my business. And then I got to a point where the pandemic hit, let's be honest. And it
Yeah.
hit personal trainers, people in the fitness business really hard. And I took what I call a real job.
Mm.
And so that job was not the right fit for me. And it really beat me down into a dark hole. And so one of my friends, who is the publisher for my book, she's like, Sarah, you have so much more to offer. You inspire me every day to eat healthy and to move my body, even if you're not working in that realm.
Mm.
Why don't you take some time and while you're not working and while you're dealing with your mental health, why don't you write a book? Why don't you like put it all into something? And it was a great activity for me to do that. But that was still 2 years from the book actually being published. Initially, it was for everybody. It was, men and women, all of our lifestyle habits and our social connections. And about a year and a half in, all of the Stacey Sim stuff really blew up about women's training. And I'm now back in the personal training space and working with women who say, okay, all of this stuff is out there. I need to be lifting 5 by 5 and I need to eat protein, but where do I start? And
Yeah.
I realized that there's a disconnect between us getting the science and the general population actually knowing how to apply it. So
Mhm.
once I made the decision to focus on women, the book wrote itself because that's where I was really passionate about. So it took me a little bit of time to get there. I
Yeah.
think I had to kind of kick that tomboy out of my body where it's not that, yeah, you're right, men and women are equal, but it's okay that we're different. And it's very powerful to be a woman. And
Hmm.
I've learned in the last 6 years since I've started tracking my cycle. And I'm going to very loosely use the term cycle syncing, and we'll come back to that in a bit because I do want to touch on that,
Yeah. Hmm.
that it's actually made me more powerful
Hmm.
because the science shows that no matter where you are in your cycle, you can hit your maximal output. So I can go to the squat, I can go and squat my maximum strength at any point in my cycle. But good luck getting me to the gym in my luteal phase. So if I can't
Yeah.
get to the gym, how do I hit that max effort?
Yes.
And so it wasn't about completely having a different plan in that week. I look at it as looking at your plan on a monthly basis. So if I say my goal is to have 3 workouts a week, that's 12 workouts for the month. And
Mm.
if in my follicular phase, I hit 4 workouts a week because I feel great, and in my luteal phase where I don't feel good, I hit 2 workouts, my body doesn't know the difference between those 12 workouts in that month. I still got them all in. And since I've started doing that, my power, my endurance, everything has really increased in a way that's sustainable for me. And it's been sustainable for clients as well who are navigating constant injuries. They've been able to mitigate them and giving their body the rest when they need the rest.
I want to touch on that a little bit deeper because that is something that, I see all the time too, is we are told, well, you have to get 3 workouts in a week, you have to do this, you have to do that, right? And the stats show all these things, but I love the reframe that if I'm doing 12 workouts in a month. I love that reframe, and I think that that's going to be a game changer for a lot of women, especially because we do sometimes have that week where we need the extra day or two of rest, or
Mhm.
like we just, I know myself, there's been, especially in perimenopause, there's days on my when I'm in my menstrual week that I literally cannot get out of bed.
Mhm.
So it's okay to take, those couple days because I know that in my other phases, hey, I was able to hit like 4 or 5 that week, right? So
Yeah.
I love that reframe and I think that's really important. I just really wanted to hit that home because I want women to hear that, it's not about I hit perfect week this week. It's about looking at it from
Mhm.
the context of our body cycle is like 28 to 38 days, depending on how your body flows. But you have that space
Yeah.
to navigate, like we aren't men. Their body cycles every 24
Mhm.
hours. So, we don't have the option to do
No.
that. So I love that. I just really wanted to hit that home because that is a beautiful reframe.
Mhm.
So,
And
you
it's
talked,
easy if,
sorry,
sorry, I just wanted to add one thing to
yeah.
that. It's easy if you're a menstruating woman and you know, okay, I started my period. It's is day one. It's easy to know that. And women come to me in postmenopause and they say, well, I don't have a cycle anymore, so that doesn't work. You still
Yeah.
have a cycle.
Yeah.
It's just a lot harder to notice. And so in
Mhm.
my book, I actually put a cycle tracker in there and
Mhm.
I help women, whether it doesn't matter what, phase of life you're in, you can use that cycle tracker. You won't have the obvious, I'm bleeding, it's day one, but there
Mhm.
are other symptoms that you'll see. And like you said, when you might one day have a 1 month have a 23-day cycle, and the next month you might have that 38-day cycle. And it can vary like that. So it's important to know your body and know how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
that.
And to that point, like in perimenopause, you might have, a month or two where you don't have your bleed. But if you actually know to track your symptoms, you will see, oh, I am definitely here or I am here
Hmm.
because you start to get to know your body. And I think cycle tracking is such an important thing. And like you said, we still have those hormone fluxes throughout our entire life. So
Yeah. Just a
good.
lot harder to notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe for the outside people, it's not as hard to notice, like, oh,
You mean the men in our life?
yeah, this is PMS week, I think. We better steer clear, right?
Yeah.
But,
It's funny because one of my best friends, when I started talking to her about this, she goes, oh, yeah. So my husband actually wanted me to track my cycle because he thought it would be good for our relationship. And she's like, I just thought it was weird. And I said, no. But he tracked my cycle. And I was like, okay, so how did that work out for you? And she's
yeah.
like, well, it actually worked out pretty well because, when he, wants to get intimate and I'm not feeling it, he
Mhm.
doesn't push it anymore because he's like, oh, yeah, in a week we'll be good to go, or in this many days we'll be
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah.
And so it's just been really interesting to see how their relationship has developed.
I love
Um,
that.
and to see how he, okay, this week I really need to make sure that I'm doing the dishes, or I really need to make sure that I'm just tidying up. And
Yeah.
other weeks where the house could look like a dumpster fire and she's not going to care and she's not going to matter. And
Yeah.
so that was when I just got into cycle syncing, and he was way, way ahead of that time. He'd already been doing it for a few years with her before she even jumped on board. So I know in my relationship as well, there'll be sometimes like, look, do we really want to have this conversation right now? Or maybe we
Yeah.
should wait 2 days and we can
Yeah.
revisit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. And it's been
Yeah.
great for us and it works. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
we're ignoring whatever it is. It just
Mhm.
means today I'm PMSing
Yeah.
and I'm going to be less reasonable.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how that works on for both sexes.
Yeah, it's definitely the more I've dug into it, my poor husband, I am the biggest nerd, right? So I have to share, and I am totally like autism and ADHD, so I need to share all the cool things that I learn, and I like word vomit on him all the time. So he also was able to start to see, okay, this is where she is and this is what's happening in her cycle. And I actually really enjoy it. I think it's a really beneficial thing that when you're in a partnership or even if you're just like in a household with other women, you
Hmm.
should be aware because there is a couple days in there where you probably shouldn't have that big conversation because I know for myself I am not going to come at it with logic. I'm going to come at it with my flaming swords, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful and like what a great way if you were to like hand this off to your partner and be like, "Can you read this with me?" Because I think we should both be aware of what's happening in my body, right? So I think that's fantastic.
So my partner has not been able to get through it yet. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying. And he was trying to be one of my proofreaders too, but he's like, I just can't get through it. I keep reading the same page over and over. I don't get it. And it's
Yeah.
like, yes, you don't live it. Where
Yeah.
women, a lot of my clients, they're way postmenopause. They're in their 60s and 70s. And they're just like, if I had known this information, things could have been so much easier. This is great. You should write a man's version, like the man's version to understanding the woman's cycle. But
Yes.
let's be honest, it would be 4 pages,
Yeah.
sorry, 4 quadrants,
Yes.
pictures and infographics only.
That should just be like a fold out in this book. Like you open and there's a fold out. Give this to your partner.
Yes, exactly. That's not a bad idea. On the
Yeah.
second version, maybe we'll add that one in.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. So you had
Mm.
mentioned you wanted to come back to talking about cycle syncing. So let's dig into
Yeah.
that.
So that's initially how I got into it, was the idea of what we called cycle syncing. And this was a women's health coach and herbalist who introduced it to me. And it was one of those things, it was the start of the pandemic. I had nothing but time.
Mm,
And it was something that just when she shared about it really resonated. So I went and did the consultation and it just makes sense. Like I always crave a steak when I'm on my period. It's
mhm,
always been a craving of mine, like it's part of it. And so to see the science behind that to how what nutrients our body needs at certain phases of our life just really, really resonated. And so there have been coaches over the last few years that I've talked to that are just so against it because
mhm,
of things like the science showing your maximal strength is the same at every point in time, and that it doesn't matter the cycle where you are in your cycle doesn't matter. You just need to move your body. And that's the important is the consistency. But I think what science misses is our lived experience in the body of a woman and actually getting there. And so one of the biggest people, I think she was the first one I heard talking about cycle syncing was Stacey Sims. And she's the same one now who's out promoting everything about perimenopause and menopause and the training. And so a couple weeks ago, she actually came out and put out a statement saying that everything she had said about cycle syncing, not everything, but a lot of it isn't applicable because you can perform at this at the same time. And I think that's great because as a high performance athlete, I remember my fastest 800-meter I ever ran was on the first day of my period. And
mhm.
as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, I was like, well, yeah, of course, your period's painful. So you just push through the pain. It doesn't matter whether it's pain from running or pain from that.
Yeah.
But it is also the fact, like proof to me now that I see that you can perform at any point in your cycle.
Mhm.
It's just getting there.
Yeah.
And that's what women miss, right? So
Mhm.
if you are a woman who is competing and has to perform at a certain date and you don't have control over what that date is, you can control other aspects of your health, like what you're doing to recover. If you know that you're not going to feel good there, well, the week or two leading up to it, you need to be spot on with your sleep and spot on with your recovery in order to support that. If we think of it like 4 quadrants that all have to be supported at the same time, if
Mhm.
we know that I'm not going to feel physically good, my energy is going to be low, then where can we increase that energy? We can increase it through that caloric surplus that we get through our protein, our fiber, and our carbohydrates. We can also do it through increasing our sleep and getting a little bit more sleep at that time. And so while cycle syncing, as in having a different meal plan and a different training plan throughout your month,
Mhm.
isn't maybe the best way to look at it, it's coming back to the flexible goals and the flexible
Mhm.
habits that we have to support our body to get that performance at any point in that cycle.
I love that. Yeah, there's been a lot of shift in the research for sure.
Hmm.
And I love, well, first of all, I love that we're researching this and that we're having these
Yeah.
conversations.
And
Like
that it's
that is the
women
biggest thing.
researching it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It is
Yeah.
definitely the biggest thing. And I want to I want to talk about a bit. So for the longest time, um, like I want to say like 10, 15 years ago, we were told as women that like during your menstrual phase, you should not train.
Hmm.
And I can remember being in courses and being like, well, you can still train, but you just maybe it looks different, right? Like you said, maybe
Hmm.
it's 2 days that week and not five or whatever.
Yeah.
And you also touched on the fact that we can still hit those PRs and we can still max out. We can still do those things, but it looks different. So if you were
Yeah.
to be, let's say you're in your menstrual phase and you're in the gym, you have a big goal you have to hit that week. What does that look like training? Do you when you're working with people, do you switch that up? Do you leave, how does the plan evolve as the menstrual phase? Because that is the one thing that like for the longest time I've been trying to like get across to people that you don't just take the week off,
Hmm.
because I've heard that
Yeah.
so many times. Just take the week off or just, you just rest the whole week and it's not the case. So can you elaborate on that?
Definitely. So, first of all, it really depends on how you feel. So, that's where that tracking of your cycle comes in. So, you know how you're going to feel. If you have a competition or a specific number you have to hit on that same day, or a training session with a coach and you can't miss it, it's adjusting it. So, say, I'm going to throw out some examples there. I want to hit my max deadlift, and I have a total of 6 exercises in that workout that day. Well, maybe I'm going to take a longer warm up and making sure that my body is really primed to do it. And if I'm trying to hit an RPE of 3, so my max weight for 3 reps,
Mhm.
I might do less warm up sets to like actual deadlifting warm up sets to get there, priming my body other ways in order to get the muscle activation turned on that we need to. And I also might not do my 5 exercises that I have after that. Hitting that max output might
Yeah.
be all I have for the day. And that's
Yeah.
okay. I might take a walk outside afterwards, or do some more stretching, or do some abs and skip the accessory work that would normally go along with that. So I'm staying on my plan. The
Mhm.
focus for that day was deadlifts.
Yeah.
And, a couple days later, I'm going to feel better and it's bench press. Well, I'm going to do all the accessories with that one. And it's just, I'm still doing the work that I need to do. I'm still doing the important part, but
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to do all of it all the time.
Hmm.
But one important thing that I see is, if we have a plan, I like to have it's like a red light, green light type system. So my plan that I have going in, this is the plan I'm going to do. If I'm feeling fantastic, well, how can I up that workout? Maybe I'm going to do sprints afterwards, or maybe I'm going to do some extra accessory work.
Hmm.
In the same way you would go down if you're not feeling great, because there are certain times we come in and you finish a workout and, well, I have a lot of energy left. Maybe the workout isn't hard enough.
Yeah.
And so when you track your workouts over the month or over a couple of months and you start to see, oh, I'm always taking the easier version. And if you're taking that easier version more than 20% of the time, then
Hmm.
maybe the plan's not right for you. Same way as if you're always having to make the workout harder, maybe your
Yeah.
workout plan's a little too easy for you. So applying that 80/20 principle where 80% of the time you're on track and 20% or on plan and 20% you're not, it applies to all aspects of your life. And I like to look at it that way. So
Yeah.
when my clients come into the workout, I know the main thing that we want to do. And I'm always putting, at the end of the session, I put their workout in a green, yellow, or red. Red means we needed to slow down. Green meant we can go. And yellow is typically we just finished that workout. It doesn't mean slow. It's
It's
the
like the
normal
happy
workout
medium.
and we're good. I just
Yeah.
have to, when I look at my Excel spreadsheets that I have for my clients, I have to know, okay, we're done that one so I can visually see where we're at. And
Mm.
so that's what works for me. And that's how I find success with my clients.
I love
We've
that.
been talking a lot about the menstrual cycle where when you're perimenopause, and we'll say postmenopause, we'll get into that now because perimenopause is just the transition from your normal cycle to your new normal cycle,
Yep.
which is very unpredictable.
Yep.
But when you're postmenopausal, you still have that cycle, but it looks a little bit different.
Hmm.
And so, in order to get the anabolic effects of building muscle, building bone density, we need a stronger stimulus. We have to work harder because of
Hmm.
our age, because of our hormones in order to get there. But because we don't have estrogen fluctuating the same way that we do, that extra stimulus hits us a lot harder. A normal amount of stimulus would hit us harder, which
Yeah.
means that you actually have to recover harder. So what we see is that clients might have, and it really ranges. I have clients that know like I'm 10 days hard, 4 days easy. And that easy workout is I'm staying on schedule. So I'm still going to work out Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but I'm
Yeah.
going to have that Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on these 2 weeks are going to be killer and I'm going to go really hard. And next week, I'm still going to move my body, but I'm going to work on my adaptations. Like I've
Mm,
been working on getting my hips lower in squats, or I've been working on this with my shoulders. So I'm going to do the workout, but I'm going
mhm,
to up my reps, lighten the load, and really just work on the little finer details to
mhm,
allow my body that cortisol to naturally come down. Because if you work harder, you have to recover harder in
yeah.
order to match it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. The variation, like as we age and go through our different parts of our cycle, there is variations that are required through each part.
Hmm.
And so, um, I always say to my clients, we can't do the same things we did when we were 20 because it's
No.
not going to work that way anymore.
Hmm.
So I love that you're doing that and working people, we're helping the women work through, and it's not about, the negative, I'm not doing enough. It's learning what is amazing for my body and how
Hmm.
can I show up for myself fully. And whether that's, like you said, working on those little tiny movements that are going to give you an even better squat when you have the energy to put even more weight on your shoulders, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a really, really important thing to talk
Hmm.
about. Um, so there's so much information in this book. I will be totally transparent. This is my February read book, so I have skimmed through it. I cannot wait to dive even deeper into this book. I am honestly super excited. There's so much good stuff in here, guys.
Hmm.
She's got all kinds of like worksheets and everything too in here for you. Um, and just, how do you get into the habits of really being in love with yourself and caring for yourself fully. I think that
Hmm.
that's really an important thing. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share with us? Is there anything else that want to go over? I want to make sure that we fully, make sure everyone understands how amazing the book is and what they can get out of it.
I think we covered the majority of it. It does start from your, first period all the way up through that
Yeah.
postmenopause and understanding what that hormonal landscape is. And then it is built to be a workbook. So after every chapter, there's some sort of worksheet or journal prompts within the chapters. And so I love that you're waiting to read it until you have time to really focus on it because it's not a read it start to finish and put it down. It's
Yeah.
a read a chapter, work on the worksheet,
Yeah.
and then start the next one when you're ready. And in the start, I say you can start at the beginning, read like the about section, and then skip to whatever phase of life that you're in. But the women who have come back and said, I read the whole thing, or initially they didn't read the stuff about their reproductive years because it didn't apply to them anymore. They ended up going back and reading it afterwards, and they have a better understanding. When you know what your body's been through, you'll recognize yourself a little bit more in where you're at right now. And it's really, I think, important to do that. So I think once again, if we're going back to adding in that little men's insert and I'm writing a second edition of it, like you did on your book,
Yeah.
I would take out the part where it says skip to what your phase of life that you're in because it's important to have that understanding of where you've been in order to really make the most out of where you are right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, so many of the women that I've worked with so far, and I'm sure you've had this too, like you just said, where we weren't fully taught or have a great
Mhm.
understanding of like what even is our cycle or why is it showing up or what is it doing, what are all these things? I know for me, when I first got my period, I got a punch in the shoulder and a pad. Like it was like, good job, and here's a pad. And I was like, what is happening? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I think being able to go back and to, like you said, understand, and it builds
Mhm.
compassion for yourself and your body because once
Yeah.
you understand what all has gone on all these years inside your body, it's such an amazing thing and it builds such a beautiful relationship with yourself and compassion.
Hmm.
So I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really can't wait to dig in. I've skimmed through and I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much good information in here. And I feel like
Yeah.
you're just as nerdy as I am, so I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I'm so
I'm
excited.
excited for you to read it because I know you've done a lot of research with it. And I'm excited to hear because this is meant to be an intro for people who have no idea. They're like, okay, this information is out there. I
Yeah.
have no idea what it means. And it's kind of scary because it might mean major lifestyle changes. And
Mhm.
this is meant to be the soft, gentle introduction
Yeah.
to here's how you can do it gently in a way that's not shocking to your body.
Yeah.
And that's part of what took me so long to do is I was trying initially to be so scientific about it. There's a
Mm.
lot of science out there already. It's
Yeah.
the how do we bridge the knowing to the doing? And
Yeah.
this, I hope to be the bridge for people between that knowing
Mhm.
and the doing.
I think you've done that really successfully because it does read like a good solid read that's understandable and for all people. So I'm really excited.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Sarah, I'm really grateful that you have come on the podcast today. I cannot wait for to hear the comments and the feedback from this. I know, guys, if you are, wanting to grab this book, I will make sure everything is in the show notes for you so that you can connect. I will also put Sarah's handles in there too. She has amazing content on social medias, very, very informative and fun, and her puppy is on there too, so I love it.
She's the
Um,
most important part, let's be honest.
she really is. She's so cute.
She is.
So if you guys have any questions, you can connect with her. You can reach out. Sarah, are you doing online training as well if people want to connect from afar, or is it in person?
Yeah, so I have two programs. I've actually one just launched and one's just starting. So one is a balanced energy system. So teaching people the basics of macros and how to apply your protein, your fiber to your life. And so it's a 12-week online program. We have a once a week phone call on Zoom with a group, and then you can take the time in the week to apply the information and do some worksheets. And then I do have an online mobility and strength program. I find for some people who aren't moving right now, it's good for them to be their strength program. Other
Mm,
people I have in there who are postpartum or they're looking for a way to incorporate some recovery movement into their
yeah.
life. So these workouts are on Zoom as well. And then I do coaching with online workouts, nutrition, and habit building as well.
Amazing. Okay, guys, so you can connect with her, get anything you need from the show notes below, and we will see you guys all next time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.